I started filmmaking in 2009, and along my journey I have used many different techniques and plugins to master the art of colour grading, and never truly found something that I clicked with until now. Dehancer seems to have changed the game in terms of being able to turn your digital cinema footage into authentic looking film stock. In this video, I will show you shots from many different projects from 2023 that I have coloured with Dehancer, and a short look at exactly how I have done it. So this is my first clip of 2 that I'm going to be showing you today. I am editing in Premiere Pro. So with the Dehancer plugin on my clip, I'm going to go ahead and activate it. And this is how it's going to look for you guys when you first put it on. You'll have a Rec 709 that's put on there as standard, but I'm assuming that you'll all have a log camera that you'd like to apply. If you're editing with drone footage or footage that doesn't have a log profile, then you can go ahead and use the Rec 709. That's what I use. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go and select my camera. I am running the red Komodo 6K, so that's what I'm going to use for this. And as you see, you'll get the base LUT applied to your clip. And it gives you a really nice place to start with your grade in Dehancer. I do like to switch off film grain, like so, just so I have a cleaner image to work with from the start. The image is looking a little bit cold, so I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of temperature, a bit more heat to the image, just to flatten it out a little. I don't tend to use the tint comp as much within the input source because there's another really cool part of Dehancer which I'm going to show you shortly. Within film, this is where you can apply your film look, where you have plenty of different presets. Here you see that Kodak Vision 250D is what you have automatically, but there are so many others that you can choose from to apply to your clip. But for today, I'm going to use Kodak 250D. So within Film Developer, I'm going to enable this, and that will allow me to apply the contrast I need to my shot, just to give it a little bit more sharpness within the image, and to get it looking closer to how I want it. Just as a side note, I love the sliders within Dehancer. It's such a nice touch, as before I didn't know they were there, so I would end up decreasing or increasing the values by numbers, which is, as you can imagine, is quite a pain. So yeah, the sliders are a nice touch. Thank you, Dehancer. Okay, so film compression. Basically, we can soften the highlights, take away that bit of a nasty background. As you can see there, obviously the highlights are a bit too blown out. So what you can do with film compression is you can remove those, but it does come at a cost because it does tend to flatten your image as a whole, taking out a lot of the brightness in the edges. Whether you choose to have this on or not is completely up to you, and in some instances it does work really nicely. Okay, so now we are in print film, which is super, super nice. It adds that really nice vintage texture to your frame. And here I'm just going to adjust the exposure of this print, just so it's not too crushed. For me, I like to just increase things bit by bit and not go too wild with it. As you can see here, it way overdoes it. So yeah, subtle is key for me. So color head, this is probably my favorite part of Dehancer. Here you can really dial in the colors and your final film look. As you see here, we're in yellow and blue. I'm just going to adjust this slightly. Just a little bit of yellow, nothing too heavy. Magenta and green, as you see here, if we really boost, you get a bit too much. So yeah, subtle, just a little bit there, 2.7. Slider working its magic. And again, you only want this to be a little bit subtle. So I'm going to push a little bit into the blue. That's too much, so we're going to back it off a little bit. Maybe go into the reds to keep that warm tone. Yep, I like that. So what's really great about this is obviously when you're experimenting and playing around, you always just end up with a look that you just love. So if I turn that off, turn it back on. The difference is actually insane looking from log to your current progress within your grade. It's probably my favorite part, to be honest with you, like the color grading. It just, when you're bringing your footage to life, something that you've shot and edited, and then you start to color, it just, yeah, it's such a lovely part of the process. What's your favorite process? Let me know in the comments. Okay, cool. So the second part of the color head process, we're just going to go into the shadow tone. Start to bring in a little bit more of that heat. Midtones. Again, you can see here from the slider, like me pushing it left introduces more blue, pushing it to the right introduces more heat and orange. Highlight tone. Again, you can see that really taking effect on the highlights in the skin. So I'm just going to put that, yeah, around about there. Okay, so halation, the famous halation. That's what you see on most clips nowadays. It's what really gives you that vintage look and feel to your edges. Yeah, it's the edges of your image. I'm just going to go ahead and enable that. It gives like a really nice subtle feel. Obviously, you can boost this quite a lot. As here, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to boost the local diffusion. So if I bang it right up, you can see it really takes effects, especially on the rail there. Yeah, just here on the rail, you can see that pop in, but I don't like to boost things too much. I like it to be subtle. Go ahead and apply some bloom. Now what this does is it adds quite a nice sort of soft edge diffusion, I suppose you could call it. Yeah, nice soft edge diffusion. You can see here, I turn it off, turn it back on. You can kind of see that taking effect on the hairline and the shoulders there. Apply some vignette. Now, I love vignette. Obviously, depending on your image or what's going on in your frame, it's really nice to, I guess, make your subject pop, drawing some nice attention to the center of the frame. Okay, cool. Well, that's pretty much the grade process on this. I might just add a little bit more exposure. Oh, that's a bit too much. Dial that back in to a point where you're happy, and yeah, I think that's pretty nice. Here's with it off and then back on. Okay, so I'm just going to render this out and we can play this back so you can see the image moving. Obviously my system tanks hard when I apply the Dehancer LUT, so I have to render to view playback. I'll just do that really quickly and then you can have a look. So that's clip number 1, and let's go on to our second clip. So here is our next shot. So I've picked our hero frame for this particular grade, and I'm going to go ahead and apply Dehancer. Back into input, choose our camera. So this is looking pretty cold, so I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of temperature. Turn our film grain off so we have a nice sharp image to play with. Then go ahead into Film Developer and apply that contrast. Making sure we get a nice balance between the light and the dark of the image to a point where I'm happy. So now we're going to head to the next one down and apply our film compression. Take away a little bit of the harsh highlights in the sky. Get that to a point where we like it. Nice. And then we're going to head into our print and apply our Kodak print film. Boom. Ease off on the contrast a little bit there. Now it is totally up to you whether you want to use print. You don't have to. You can achieve some nice grades without it. I just quite like the look. Then into my favorite part, the color head, where we can then go ahead and manipulate all those colors within the frame. So a little bit into the yellow, maybe a bit too much. There we go. Magenta and green. Green's too harsh. Maybe push into the magenta a little bit more actually. There we go. Cayenne. Yeah, just use a little bit of blue. So now we've got a nice contrast between the water and the sky. And then film grain, I'm going to put some film grain back on here, because I do like film grain. I'm a sucker for film grain. But again, I don't want to use too much of it. So about there is nice. The famous halation. Put the diffusion up slightly. And there we go. So you can see it's like added this little triangle underneath her arm, and to the water around it adds that nice subtle red glow. And then a bit of bloom, just to soften the image that much more. And I think between these two, this is what really gives you the film stock look. Vignette. On, off, on, off. And that makes our subject pop nicely in the middle. And there are some other things within Dehancer that you can use. I haven't fully utilized it as much as I'd like yet. But yeah, there's so much in here which is just great. It's such a good tool. As you can see, here's the shot playback. Without the grade. And then I'm going to go ahead and render this off and then play it back with the grade. And here we go. Here's the shot. There we go. Look at that pop. And if you're wondering what lenses I've shot both of these clips on, I am using the Atlas 32mm Anamorphic. Absolutely beautiful lenses. I've been using them for the last 7 months. And yeah, honestly, it's such beautiful glass. They're getting more and more popular as the years go by. And yeah, love to Atlas. So yeah, that was my short and brief, no filter look at how I colour my clips with Dehancer. Thank you guys so much for watching my Dehancer tutorial on Premiere Pro. Although short, I hope you got something out of it, and yeah, Happy New Year. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on another one soon.